In the depths of the unknown, where shadows whisper and fear takes form, welcome to Classic Storytime Hub, the place where classic horror and mystery come alive. Tonight, I bring you a reimagined version of The Evil Clergyman by H.P. Lovecraft, retold with a suspenseful narrative style that grips the soul and breathes new life into this haunting tale. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a journey into the shadows. I was led into the attic by a solemn man whose iron-gray beard and steady eyes gave him an air of authority. His voice was low, almost conspiratorial, as he warned me, "He lived here once, but I wouldn't meddle if I were you. Curiosity can be dangerous. None of us dare enter this place after nightfall. It is only by his will that the room remains untouched. You know the stories, what he did, the society that claimed him in the end. No law could ever touch them, and no one knows where his body lies." He paused, his gaze flicking nervously toward the table. "Whatever you do, leave that little box alone. It looks harmless, like a match case, but we believe it's tied to his work. We don't even look at it for long." With that, he left me alone. The attic was dim and heavy with dust, yet strangely orderly, as though someone had cared for it despite the years. Shelves sagged under the weight of old volumes, some theological, others filled with arcane names I barely recognized. Paracelsus, Trithemius, Hermes Trismegistus. Their spines bore symbols in alphabets I could not read. The furniture was plain, the beams black with age, and the bullseye windows distorted the view of crooked rooftops outside. This was no London house. It felt like some forgotten seaport dwelling, ancient and secretive. But my attention kept returning to the object on the table, small, dark, and strangely alluring. I felt as though I already knew what to do with it. From my pocket I drew a curious device, something like a flashlight, though its glow was not white, but a trembling violet. It was less a beam of light than a shower of tiny, radiant particles. As dusk deepened, I steadied the object against a book and directed the violet stream upon it. The particles struck its glassy surface with a faint crackle, like sparks inside a vacuum tube. A pinkish glow spread across the dark glass, and within it, a pale shape began to stir into being. It was then I realized I was no longer alone in the room. The figure who entered made no sound. In fact, the entire scene unfolded in a strange silence, as though I were watching a pantomime through a veil of mist. Yet, paradoxically, the man appeared both impossibly close and impossibly distant, as if the geometry of the room itself had been warped. He was lean, dark, and dressed in the sober vestments of an Anglican clergyman. Perhaps 30 years of age, his features were ordinary enough at first glance, until one noticed the unnaturally high forehead, the olive skin, the sharp intelligence in his eyes. His hair was neatly combed, his jaw clean-shaven, though shadowed with a heavy growth, and thin spectacles glinted faintly in the lamplight. There was something about him, subtle, concealed, yet unmistakably sinister. With nervous haste, he lit a small oil lamp. Then, to my astonishment, he began hurling his books, tomes of forbidden knowledge, into a fireplace I had not seen before, set against the slanting wall. The flames leapt hungrily, devouring the volumes with unnatural colors, releasing foul odors as the worm-eaten bindings and cryptic pages curled into ash. Suddenly,
I realized we were not alone. Other men had appeared, stern figures in clerical robes, one of them unmistakably a bishop in his bands and knee breeches. Though I could hear nothing, their gestures told me they were passing judgment upon the first man. Their faces betrayed both hatred and fear, and he returned their loathing in kind. His jaw tightened, but his right hand trembled as it clutched the back of a chair. The bishop pointed toward the empty case and the smoldering fireplace, his expression twisted with disgust. The clergyman gave a crooked smile, then slowly extended his left hand toward the small object resting on the table. At once, terror rippled through the assembly. The silent procession of clerics retreated down the steep stairway, one by one, their hands raised in ominous gestures. The bishop was the last to descend, his eyes fixed with dread upon the man who remained.
The dark figure moved with sudden purpose. From a cupboard he drew a coil of rope, climbed onto a chair, and fastened it to the great black beam that loomed across the ceiling. With chilling calm, he began to fashion a noose. The realization struck me. He meant to hang himself. I rushed forward, desperate to stop him, but he turned, catching sight of me. His preparation ceased, and on his thin lips spread a grin, wolfish, triumphant, unsettling in its confidence. Slowly he stepped down from the chair and advanced toward me, gliding rather than walking, his eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. A wave of mortal dread swept over me. Instinctively, I drew the strange ray projector from my pocket, clutching it like a weapon. I cannot say why I believed it would save me, only that terror left me no choice. I aimed it at his face and triggered the device. The violet beam struck him, washing his sallow features in an unearthly glow that shifted to a sickly pink. His expression faltered, exultation giving way to fear, though never vanishing entirely. He staggered, arms flailing wildly, retreating step by step. I realized too late he was backing toward the open stairwell. I tried to cry out, to warn him, but my voice seemed swallowed by the air. With a final lurch, he toppled backward into the void and vanished. I forced myself toward the stairwell, expecting to see a broken body below. But there was nothing. Instead, the silence shattered, lantern light flickered, footsteps clattered, and voices rose. A crowd was ascending, villagers drawn by some disturbance I had not heard. The first two reached the landing, froze at the sight of me, and one shrieked in terror, "Ah, it's him, again!" Panic seized them all. They fled in a frenzy, every last one, save for a single figure. It was the grave, bearded man who had first led me here. Lantern in hand, he stood transfixed, his eyes wide with awe rather than fear. Slowly he climbed the stairs and joined me in the attic. His voice, when it came, was low and deliberate. He spoke.
The bearded man's voice was heavy with regret. "So you couldn't leave it alone. I feared this. It has happened before, though the last man ended it himself with a bullet. You should never have brought him back. You know what he seeks. But listen, don't give in to fear. That is how he wins." His words chilled me. "Something dreadful has touched you," he continued, "but it has not gone far enough to destroy your mind. If you keep your composure, if you accept that your life must change, you may still enjoy the world, your studies, your very existence. But not here, and not in London. Leave this place. Cross the ocean if you must. America would be wiser." He gestured toward the table. "Do not touch that thing again. Nothing can undo what has been done. To meddle further would only invite ruin. You are fortunate. It could have been far worse. Thank heaven it stopped where it did." Then his tone hardened. "I must prepare you. There has been a change. He always leaves his mark, but it is not grotesque. You will not appear monstrous. In time, in a new land, you may even grow accustomed to it. There is a mirror at the far end of the room. Come, you must see." Terror gripped me so tightly I could scarcely stand. He half supported me as we crossed the attic, the dim lamp trembling in his hand. My heart pounded as we reached the mirror. And then I saw. A thin, dark man stared back at me. His clerical garb was unmistakable. His forehead rose unnaturally high above rimless steel spectacles. His olive skin, his sharp features, his very presence. I knew him. It was the silent figure who had burned his books. And in that instant, I understood the horror. For the rest of my life, in outward form, I was to be him.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.